Everyone has a story to tell. We connect and relate to one another when we share our stories. My name is Amelia Old, and I am your host of Voices of Inspiration. Join me as I share stories of friends, family, and strangers from my everyday life and travels. You will laugh, possibly cry, or walk away feeling connected more than ever to those around you and ready to be the change our world needs. Everyone has a story to tell. What's yours? Today's guest is 18-year-old storyteller, singer-songwriter Jackson Snelling from Austin, Indiana. He recently won the Video of the Year in Nashville at the Josie Music Awards for his video of If I Only Knew. You may have also recently seen his audition in front of the celebrity judges on American Idol. Welcome to the show, Jackson.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so
Glad
much
to be
for
here.
being with me today. Let's start with American Idol. What an experience to have an opportunity to audition in front of the judges. What were you feeling in that moment?
In that very moment, I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous. I've auditioned for American Idol 3 times, and
Oh, really?
yes, that was my first time making it to that point, and to just be there and knowing, like, walking through those doors, the celebrity judges were on the other side. Just insane. A very surreal experience.
That's an opportunity I know that a lot of people can only dream of.
Yeah, and I mean, it's still surreal to me. I can't believe I still got the chance to do that. It was incredible.
Well, it was a really great audition. I still think that you should have gone through.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, Jackson, let's go back to the beginning. Can you share a little bit about you and your brother Dawson and your background?
Of course. So I started singing when I was about 3. My brother, he could not talk. He couldn't lift his tongue due to medical reasons. He was born like that, so he wasn't able to talk. So my mom and me and my dad had to learn sign language, and so did Dawson, to communicate. And we would sign to Dawson, and I started singing in sign to my brother with the sign songs and everything like that. My brother has a form of autism, and he's on the lower end of the spectrum, so he functions at about a 9-year-old level. I mean, he's 20 this year. He'll be 21, actually. And I also have autism, but it's more so on the behavioral side of things. So it was really hard for me to keep my temper. Mm-hmm. Still kind of is, but I mean, we're getting there. But essentially, with my brother and the way his autism would work, he would have meltdowns every so often. And I would sing and sign to him. I do that even now, and it helps calm him down.
That's really great. You know, I know that there are many people listening who may have children in similar situations or maybe even experiencing it themselves. Can you talk more about your personal journey with autism?
My personal journey with autism. Growing up with it was probably, for a long time, I did not want to admit that I had autism because I was embarrassed by it. I thought it made me different, and not in the good way. At least that's how I seen it for a long, long time, until in about 2018, when this whole music journey blew up. Like, my music video for Please Listen exploded, and I got thrown into the media. And in an interview, I revealed that I had autism. And I was really shy about it at first. I was nervous about saying that, but I got a lot of love and support from everywhere. And it made me realize that autism isn't something you should be ashamed of. It's something you should own, and you shouldn't let it hold you back from achieving your dreams, you know?
You're absolutely right. And I think it's important that you do share your story, because you are showing people that they can relate to you and your experiences. And I think that that's really important. You lost your father when you were just 6 years old. First of all, I'm really deeply sorry for that loss and the pain that created. How did that impact your life, losing him when you were just such a young boy?
It impacted my family quite a lot. It impacted me a lot. We spent a lot of time with our dad when we were younger. He worked a lot, but when he came home, he'd spend every waking hour playing with us with our action figures and everything. And he was just a very major part of me And when he passed away, it put me in shock. I got what you would call a mental block. Mm-hmm. And it blocks me even now from accessing certain memories of him. So when my mom will be talking about him and she'll reference something in my head, I'll remember it, but he won't be in it. It'll be like my mom and my brother, like he's blanked out entirely. So it affected me on a mental level like that. And then as far as like a physical level, it was just, it was a lot. I started trying to find ways to take care of my mom and my brother and all the ways that I could. And he helped inspire Please Listen. I mean, I think him passing is a huge reason why I got into songwriting in the first place, to try to find a healthy way to cope with it.
So you think you found your strength through your music?
I do.
How did you balance life with everything almost being thrown at you at once?
With everything going on and trying to balance was achieved essentially through music. Like anytime I felt overwhelmed, which happens quite a bit, especially now with everything going on, I sit down on my piano and I essentially start songwriting about how I'm feeling, get it down on paper, and I found that helps a lot.
You wrote the song Please Listen about your father, which is what you sang on American Idol. Can you tell me more about that song and what led to you writing that song?
Of course. So essentially, my brother, with him having autism and functioning at such a low level, he couldn't comprehend death. So after Dad passed away, whether it be on his birthday, for Christmas, holidays, he'd come up to me or Mom and say, "Hey, do you think Dad could come and stop by for my birthday? Hey, Dad, hey, do you think Dad could come, and see us on Christmas?" And this would happen every year. And I would have to say, "Hey, man, like, hey, buddy, Dad's just not coming back home. He passed away, remember?" And we'd have to remind him. So one day, I think it was my birthday, Dawson asked if Dad could come to my birthday, and I had to tell him that Dad wasn't coming home. And that night, I don't know why, I was so emotional. I came downstairs to my grand piano, and I just started bawling. And as I was crying, I was singing how I felt. And that's literally how I wrote Please Listen. I wrote Please Listen in 5 minutes because it was just 5 minutes of me singing how I felt. And then my mom heard it and came down and she started crying and she was like, "Did you write all that?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, we're gonna try to get it recorded. And that's how Please Listen came to be.
How old were you then?
I was 15 when I wrote it.
Wow. You also have another song that has gained a great deal of attention for not only the lyrics, but also the music video. Can you tell me about If I Only Knew?
Yes. If I Only Knew, I wrote about a really close friend of mine who tragically took his own life. And the title is about my friend, he seemed to have everything. He always carried himself all right. He had like a lot of friends, family, very talented person. And he was the happiest guy you'd ever meet in your life. So when it happened and I got that call, I couldn't believe it. Sometimes I still can't believe it. But essentially it's like, if I only knew what he was going through, I felt like I could have done something about it. So I wrote a song about how I was feeling. And after the song was done and we recorded it, we reached out on my fan page to people. We made a post and we asked people to mail in pictures of loved ones they've lost to suicide. And if they wanted to be in the music video, they could come out and when we film. And we expected 10, maybe 15 people, but around 50-ish people show up with all these pictures of loved ones that have passed to suicide. And their ages, they span from 7 years old to 54. And it was one of the most tragic yet amazing things you'd ever want to see, because when you lose somebody like that, you feel like you have no one to talk to and no one can relate to how you're feeling. But when we all gathered in that church, it was almost like we didn't feel so alone anymore. Mm-hmm. And everybody was sharing their stories. And it was beautiful.
Wow. With all of the struggles that you've been through, if you could say anything to our listeners that may be facing similar challenges, what would you say?
I would say that everything always gets better. It's going to take time. And I know that some days it feels like it won't, but just keep your head up and keep pushing through, because there's a light at the end of the tunnel and you're destined for better days.
So true. Do you have a favorite quote or a saying that you live by?
A saying that I live by. Essentially, it's a quote, and I've said it on a lot of interviews for If I Only Knew and suicide awareness in general, that if you're having those thoughts or even thinking about anything like that, that it's a permanent fix to a temporary problem.
What's next for you?
What's next for me? I've just releasing more original music. I'm about to start traveling again for my shows, for performing. I plan on auditioning for American Idol again, so we'll see how that goes.
You definitely should.
Oh, yeah. But just be prepared to hear a lot of new original music from me.
And where can our listeners find you online?
So I have an Instagram, which is my last name and my first, so Snelling Jackson. But if you want to have access to all my social medias, the easiest way is to go to www.jacksonsnelling.com, and it has links to all of my socials if you want to follow me on there.
And I will also link to all of that under this episode on voicesofinspirationpodcast.com. And you're going to sing for us today, right?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So I had, would you want to hear the full song of Please Listen?
Absolutely.
Okay. I've never had Father's Day, and that's because all the other kids would say is with their dads they would go and play, and it's not fair. That's a feeling I will never know, 'cause I lost mine when I was 7 years old. I just wish you could see me now, performing for the crowds like he always wanted me to. And you know, Mom, she sees you and me, and I just wish I could be half the man that you were, 'cause maybe then it'd be easier. You know I'm trying my best to take care of the family you left. You know that Mom feels alone, 'cause she has no one to hold. And my brother still thinks you're coming home, and it hurts my soul when I have to sit him down and say, please listen. You know a lot of things have changed since you've been gone. It's been a long 9 years. It hasn't felt that long. You know my brother hardly leaves his room. And that's because he's always thinking about you. And Mom, she tries to keep a brave face and say that everything's alright. But when she goes to bed, cries herself to sleep at night. You know I'm trying my best to take care of the family you left. You know that Mom feels alone because she has no one to hold. And my brother still thinks you're coming home. And it hurts my soul when I have to sit him down and say, please listen. Daddy's never coming home. Daddy's never coming home. I'm tired of people saying they understand that they've lost people too. But can they really understand if they never knew you? Dad, I'm trying my best to take care of the family you love. Mom can't help but feel so alone. And my brother will always think you're coming home. But please listen. Dad is never coming home. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That was so beautiful. Whew. Thank you so much, Jackson, for joining me today and being so open to sharing your story. I think it's so important, and I think that you are incredibly inspiring, and I have no doubts that you're going to do great things. Oh, look, you got me crying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much to our listeners. There are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm just so grateful that you've chosen to join us. My name is Amelia, and I'm your host of Voices of Inspiration. Everyone has a story to tell. What's yours?